Alrighty, so now we're going to start UV mapping things that are a little bit more complex. So if I select this room, and I'm just going to go to my UV texture editor perspective view, and I'll isolate this room so we just see that. We see there's a lot of distortion and weird things because it's still using the UVs from when it was originally a box. So first, let me take care of the floor. Which actually looks like for the most part it's done, but we'll just make sure. So I'm going to select the center face in this case, and I'm just going to hit Shift period to grow the selection. Make sure to get this little part because that's a part of the floor in that area. And I'm just going to planar map that. So I'm just going to go Show UV Toolkit, pop this over here so it's not all over the place. And we want to project on the Y anything that's flat like a floor or a ceiling. We project on the Y, which is the middle mouse button. Click on planar with the middle mouse. There's that. I can move that over. There's my floor. Awesome. The ceiling will be a little more interesting because I've got this receded lighting. But I can kind of do the same thing and then we just break it away. So I'm going to select this piece, Shift period, 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 and I've got the ceiling. Make sure I've got all parts. And I'll do the same, planar. Now, you notice it's reversed, so we'll flip it. There's some distortion up here, and that's because it's having a hard time to try, and it projected straight down, which means that on the vertical faces, it's just going to go up and down. So I need to possibly cut this up a little bit or do some things to it. How much time I spend on it depends on how important it is, if I'm just putting a solid color on it, or is this going into a game engine, or am I using a procedural texture? But in the interest of space, if I actually go in, and let's say we take double click there, cut, and then double click there, cut, and I'm just breaking these now. Grab the shell, and you can see I'm breaking these pieces. Flip that. That's that interior. That actually is working all right. Oops. Strange. Okay. So we got that. And if I were to take that, I just want to see what that looks like. Were I to unfold it, then we could see those little parts that were distorted starting to pop out. You see? But it's having a hard time because the corners are still attached. And you'll notice, unlike before, when I do a double click, it's grabbing the whole edge. So what I want to do is I'm going to go back to my tool so I can just get that corner. I'm just cutting those so that when I unfold it, it'll make a little bit more sense. So if I just have that, let's see what that looks like. That looks better. Still a little distortion, but like I said, it's the ceiling. Grab you. And we can see that works out pretty well. Okay. When I see something, I'm like, yeah, you know what, that's a little bit off. So that means these guys probably need to be laid out a little bit more. Let's see. Oh, and I see. Let's try the unfold tool. As I run that across, this is interesting because kind of tries to open them up so that they're actually functioning better. I'm trying to make these roughly the same size because they are in the real world. They're all the same size. They're just four sides of uh, an area. So they should all be roughly the same size as each other. Anytime there's something like this where you'd have a corner, it's interesting if I just select those and cut them and then go in and optimize, you notice it starts to fix itself. And sometimes I have to play this little silly game of forcing it. I don't mind the corner overlaps because this isn't a light map and the stuff in there really isn't going to be that noticeable. It's up at the ceiling. Nobody's really going to be looking at that. So that's one wall back there, this little section back here. This is everything but that area. So if I grab all of these are my walls, and then I can do a cylindrical map, even though it's like a flatter surface. Now, if I were to just squeeze it out here, you'd start to see it starting to eventually fix itself. The biggest problem I'm going to have are these little insets that are going on like this. So once again, you imagine that this is like built from paper and folded. how would I lay that out? Like if it's like a box or like some sort of weird display, how would I actually fix that? Okay, so I could do a couple of things. I could have a little distortion in these areas, but ideally I don't want to have that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to break this apart. I'm just going to take this whole piece out and I'll do it that way. And I'm not too worried about the edge. I can line that up. And actually, you know what? We'll see this more. I'll do it this way. The top and the bottom, the four corners, and the two on the either side, which means that this would be one piece, and then these would connect right to the walls. So if I hit cut, then we'll see those texture differences. And if I go in to the toolkit, select that as a shell, you could see that I can move it independently. And the cool part of that is I could just take it, and then this, I could just tell it to unfold. And it does a really nice job, press F to zoom in, of just a nice consistent layout of the textures on it. And then I do the same for the other inset. So if I go to this one, so once again, I would cut on the corners. And then the two inner sides. And then the outer side, that's right. Boom, boom. So I have this, like it basically is an outline, leaving only the sides connected to the wall, and the top, middle, and bottom of this inset will be its own shell. And so I cut it. So I want to select that alone. There you are. And then this guy, we just go in and do the same thing. Unfold. There we go. Okay. And the last thing is I want to move this where it's kind of open. I want to put the where it opens up in a corner, not in the middle of the wall, because that's an annoying seam. So, oh, and I almost forgot this area over here. Okay, I would cut like that. There, I want to leave this with the floor, this little tab here. So if I actually cut that, that guy, unfold. Now, once again, nice clean texture. And then that just leaves this guy down here, where I can go in now and do the same thing. And what you'll see is a nice consistent texture going all along. I just want to move that edge, which is over there, and move it to here. So I'll just use my little, get that corner, stitch that part back up. That was Control double click to sew it back up with that 3D tool. And now I could just grab this guy again. There we go. But now I have it, and then I can assign different materials to each shell. One material for the floor, one material for the wall, one for the ceiling, or different parts of the ceiling if I wanted to. So since I know I'm using tiling textures, the necessity, I can shrink everything down or cut this up so it's just like if I were to cut the walls up, I would cut them up so that all of them are basically along a corner, like so. And then I'd grab all of them and then do a layout. The one thing I'd want to make sure of though is that once again we have texture consistency. Right now their shapes are a little bit off, so if I go shift left mouse button for the options, I can go in and tweak some things out of let's see, shell pre-scaling, preserve 3D ratios. Now when I did that, you'll notice that my textures actually are more consistent. I don't have really tight here and really large here. And the reason being is because of the fact that now I said look at the texture space or the 3D space of the model. And now they're all fitting into that area. I don't always do it this way. Most of the time, if I can get away with it for the walls, I'll leave them since I know I'm using a tiling texture so that they're just going across the multiple UVs and they're just going to tile, and that makes it seamless for me. This is one of those cases where I would do something like this and then make sure there's no overlap like this if I was doing it for a game because I need to make light maps. But you'll find that it's going to be kind of up to you or the requirements of whatever project you're working on. Okay. For something like this, you know, I would actually more often than not just kind of take the edge of, let's say, a wall and then say, you know what, I want to sew that back. Stitch together. Boop. And you see that stitched. Say the same, stitch together. Same, stitch together. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I have the whole wall. Oops. And then that way, if I make, oh, jinkies, I'm supposed to do that. And that way, what I was going to say is that if I actually do um, stitch together. So that's all one shell now. Just make sure, grab all the top ones, align them so that they're up at the top. Boop. Nice clean line. Do the same for these guys if I need to. Boop. Next line. But I know if I scale it so that the bottom is the bottom of the 0 to 1 and the top is the top, then I can make a perfectly large square that would just go there if I'm using a horizontal tiling. And that means that it may be wall up here, but some sort of trim or something that I want across the bottom. So either way, it works, you know. Whatever gets your job done in this particular one, I'm just z'ing out of that just to put it back. There we go. But now I've got my room done.